Hold your arms out again. Look, we're just one person.
Yep.
All right. Hello, and welcome to Temple of False Pod. We're decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. I'm Andy.
I'm Bruce.
Welcome back. Season 15.
5.
1-5.
Yeah.
The beginning of a beautiful season. When we're done with this season, we're going to be 150 episodes in. Amazing.
No.
No? Not amazing?
No, your math is wrong.
I don't think it is.
We're in season 15?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
See, at the end of season 1, we're at 10 episodes, 20 episodes,
Yeah.
30
This
episodes.
is why I'm a lawyer, not an accountant.
That's why count is a big part of that word.
Yeah.
But, with all these big numbers, something else that's been a big number has been the amount of precons we've gotten over the years, especially over the past few years. Last year, and this isn't a thing that I actually counted, this is from Loading Ready Run,
Yes.
we had 26 precons, including Secret Lair precons, including Universes Beyond precons, which means that was once every 2 weeks. Funnily enough, none of them were a fortnight precon. It's a little
Very nice.
It's a word joke, wordplay. Yeah. So I mean, I know that you have an interesting history with the precons. I don't. I've bought a couple here and there, the ones that have interested me. For those who don't know, I guess, precons are pre-constructed commander decks. Any pre-constructed deck. But we're going to talk about commander decks.
Yeah.
Sometimes they've got new cards in them. They've got a lot of reprints. There's a lot of value just bubbling at the seams. This is where we've gotten things like Dockside Extortionist is precon card. The cycle of, if you have your commander out, this card is free, like Deflecting Swat or the counter one. Aside from all this value, there's a bigger through line here of like your favorite Magic YouTubers, your favorite podcasters all want you to buy this precon, take 10 cards out, put 10 cards in, right?
Yeah.
And so like this is where this idea came from for me. So Today we're just dedicating the episode to precons.
Nice.
Yeah. For our general audience, how about you tell us about your history with precons?
Sure. So when the Commander precons first started coming out, way back in those days, because that's basically what it is now, because it is that far back. When they first started coming out with the precons, I was running the group for the kids at our local community library, and some of the first events that I ran were precon events where I would buy a bunch of precons, and then we would just sort of I would resell them to the kids, and we would do a little mini tournament or have little commander games with the precons. My local card store had plenty of them, so oftentimes I would buy, because at the time it was it five?
It was 4 or 5 a year. Yeah,
it was 4 or 5 per year, and I would get 25, 30.
Yeah,
and then use some of them for that, and then offer the same deal to the playgroup, because my local store was offering me a deal because I was running these programs or running these little mini tournaments. So we would get the cards for a pretty reasonable price, a little bit under the suggested
MSRP
retail,
just above
the MSRP.
Just above wholesale.
Right. And that went well for a while, and then I stopped doing that with the group, and it became harder and harder for my local game store to get a volume of Precons to the point where he could afford to give me a bunch and still have enough to sell, like just regular on the shelf.
Yeah.
So it basically came down to I started buying a full set of them every year, and that was all I was buying. So just 4 or 5 per year. And back then, was it 35 or 40?
Oh wow!
Somewhere in that range. They were pretty reasonably priced. I know when they started, it was like $29.99 for a Precon, and I was getting a better price than that, which explains why I was buying so many of them, because it just made sense, and everybody else wanted in on this deal too. So we would do this, and every year, so I would have these 4 or 5 Precons. And this continued right up until Wizards decided that Precons are selling so well, why are we only doing 5 a year?
Right.
So then they changed it so that they would do those 5 per year, in a bunch, or sometimes 4, and then they would also do 1 or 2 Precons per set.
So I think with War of the Spark, up until War of the Spark, it was the Commander year number sets, right? It was like C14, C15, etc. And then after War of the Spark, we had C21, which was the Strixhaven ones. But then I think also that year we had they had the Strixhaven ones, which were like their like leaders of the Commander set for that year.
Right.
That was like the one, but then they were also trying out like smaller, like maybe less valuable decks for the sets. So we had like 2 for Zendikar Rising, 2 for Kaldheim, 2 for Innistrad, Midnight Hunt or whatever.
Right.
And then kind of from there, we ended up now we just have them for every set.
Right. So when it became, I think I bought 1 year, and they were doing some of the Precons otherwise, like for each of the sets. Mm-hmm. And I believe I bought 1 year when they did that. Now, I didn't buy the individual ones. I just bought the set of 5. And then at some point along the way, they stopped doing the set of 5 because it just turned into, we're going to do a set of 4 for every single set that comes out. And I took a look at this, and I understood that I was no longer getting the deal from my local game store. I was paying just standard retail and realized, okay, so I'm looking at, a lot more Commander decks to buy at a much higher price. And I just said, you know what? I have a lot of Magic cards, and I can buy singles, and maybe I'll just stop buying all of these Precons every year and start buying singles. And part of this was predicated on the idea that oftentimes I would buy the full set of Precons, and then they would sit in the box because it would take me almost a year to finally crack each of them open and play them one time.
Yeah.
So at some point I just recognized it's like, really, this isn't, you're buying it because you've always bought it, not because you actually are dying for that particular Precon. There wasn't any real pressing reason to buy. And my thought was, you know what? The next time one of these expensive cards comes out in just the Precon, well, you'll buy that one card, and it will still end up costing less than having to buy all of the sets all of the time. So
for sure. And I think
that's when I kind of stopped.
Yeah, and I think with that too, it like ends up being like, obviously up until like up to say like even last year, right? Like last year we said there were 26. Now you're a guy who plays, generally speaking, on average 2 games a week.
Yes.
So if you're trying to play at least a game with the deck, that's going to be 1 out of every 4 of your games. And that's if you don't miss a week. That's if, you get to play more than a game per week,
Right.
And so like that's obviously like a tough routine, and I'm glad you recognize that nobody's holding you to that. But it's definitely, I think, an interesting point where you ended up, because it means that like Wizards, while pumping out all this new product, and I personally have no problem with that. It is a thing where they've more or less alienated someone like you who was getting all of it.
Well, it's one of those things. The completist in me wanted to just get every one of them.
Right.
And for the longest time, I could afford to do that. And then they started making so many more of them that it wasn't a case of, we're going to add one more. Do you think you have another $35, $40? It was more a case of, no, we're going to triple it. And you're going to give us triple the money, right? And I was just like, well, no, I'm not. Because I'm spending enough already. I don't need to, I have a locked-in budget for what I spend on Magic cards.
Right.
So and I'm not spending over that. So I stopped. And once I realized that there were going to be Commander decks out there that I didn't buy, well, then suddenly it's like, well, why am I buying the rest of these? If it's, if I'm going to have an incomplete set, why not make it very incomplete? And think of all the money I'm going to save. Which, it's not like Wizards is suffering here. I would just take that, for the longest time, I took that money and put it onto a box of Conspiracy or Battle Bond or a
Commander
Legends or whatever other box set, just draft
or even
and that kind of thing.
Buying a cycle of the new lands or a playset of the new lands, right? Like
yes.
And I think that's great. I think that like still having that budget for the game is good. I think I think if any of you listeners out there are buying all the Commander decks, great. Like I think that's wonderful. I think that if it's something you love doing, wonderful. We're talking strictly like trying to keep our budget intact, but also like not like fully pulling out of the game. Because I think that like to an extent, you can look at a lot of the cards, but it's like, and figure out which ones you want. But I think there's to some extent, you can never really fully experience or evaluate, I guess, a card like fully until you play with it. And I mean, I think that was what was so great about being able to buy them, play a game at least with them, and then move on, or adjust it in your own ways. And I commend all these podcasts and YouTube channels that do these Commander Precon upgrades, because for someone like me who does enjoy a lot of the Precons, a lot of the intended synergies, the intended play patterns and stuff, I like playing a handful of games with any Precon that I've bought. I like figuring out like, all right, what's the thing that this deck's trying to do, and then going back and trying to like make it my own.
I liked trying just some of the different options for Commander for the deck.
Yeah,
because most of the decks come with 2 or 3 legendary creatures that could be your Commander. Maybe they're not as optimal as the featured, but you can try them out and just sort of see how that works and all that kind of thing. So
I think
I had a lot of fun with the cards.
I think that's one of my favorite things about these decks in general is the legendaries that aren't necessarily the face commander.
Yeah.
I think this is where like Crick, Son of Yawgmoth came from, I believe, is from the Anya Falconwrath deck. And I loved that deck. It had a very specific thing. It did it very well, but eventually I took it apart and used the parts for other things. And I think that was kind of where I wanted to go with this episode, was like, there's so many things you can do with a Precon other than just open it up, sleeve it, play it. I fully recommend doing that, at least for a game, if you ever buy a Precon. But I think that it, rather than just immediately going to a podcast or a YouTube video to like how to optimize this deck even more, because that's generally what these upgrades are going to be doing, is like, hey, how do I make this compete with a good deck, right? And I think that this can be part of our discussion too. Wizards has tuned a lot of these precons in the past couple of years, or at least like designed cards to be more powerful for these decks because of the format they're being played in, because they're not legal in most other formats, except for like eternal formats. But I think that between playing them for a couple times, adjusting to your own likeness, adding in some pet cards, seeing like looking at the categories that the deck is made up of, and like really analyzing like what it's going on. I think that what do I have? I have note synergies and ratios, right? Like you don't necessarily want the deck to be, 1/9 this, 1/9 this, 1/9 this, 1/9 this. Like things can fluctuate within there. So it's like, I've got 7 cards that do this, I've got 6 cards that do this, I've got 9 cards that do this, whatever. And so then like to swap cards out, you need to look at that, analyze what it does and how good it is. And I would say overwhelmingly, don't necessarily go with strictly better. Right.
Well, yes. But I would argue for a different reason.
Okay.
I think for the new player, and we've discussed this in another podcast, when the new player joins a Commander game and they come in with a Precon because new Magic player, this will allow you to play.
Yeah, so here's 30,000 cards. Pick 100 of them.
Right. To do it, for a new player to just try and create a deck from scratch and then order the cards, it's like that's not how a new player is going to get into this game. A new player is going to get in by, it's like, oh, we have here's a completed deck. Why don't you play? And then we're going to encourage you to try and build your own deck. But the difficulty I have with Precons now, other than the obvious cost issue, Precon should not cost 3 figures. It's more a case of this is probably the best deck you're ever going to run. Because for a new Magic player to try and build a deck from scratch, it is not going to be as good as a Precon. And that's going to be true for a while. It's going to take a long time of building and finding out exactly what makes a good build before that new player can build a deck that's as good as the Precon. I think Wizards is doing a disservice by creating a situation where it's like, congratulations, you've built your own deck. Guess what? Our Precon slaughters your deck. And this is when you know that the Precon could be so much better just by adding better lands. Or, just there are some very easy, straightforward changes you can make to a Precon to make it better. Oftentimes the land base is the easiest way to do that. But the deck is already so much better than most new players can ever build. I think that's a little frustrating, but
I think the fact that they're better than players can build has always been the case. Like, I think even the first Commander decks were better than what new players could build, and I think that kind of comes with the territory of being a new player. I think that it gets them involved and excited to play the format, and I think like the purpose of the product is to always be like a step into the door, like to be part of the room rather than be like, all right, like we're gonna hold you out here until you make a deck. And I think that the way that it ends up showing the synergies, the ways that you can improve your own gameplay through the cards that are in the deck, I think are good. I think the point about the land base especially, but I guess really any mana base. You got rocks and stuff, but I think the land base is important. I think that the fact that even 3 years ago, all the precons just came with tapped lands, tap gain a life, tap surveil, tap not surveil, tap scry, like the temples. You know, so many of these tapped lands it very quickly became not optimal. And not to say that you should be playing optimal as a new player, but like I do think that it does kind of give them an unfair place to stand from. So like to adjust the rest of the deck accordingly to make it so that you're more or less on even playing ground does make the deck just ultimately more powerful.
Right.
But I think the thing with the land base is that there's so many good lands now that they have no reason not to be printing, like the battle bond land, right? Like the ones that check if you have 2 or more opponents.
Yeah.
I don't know why they aren't printing more. I mean, I guess I could understand, but I think just do it. But I think with I think to make a successful product for both new players and already enfranchised players, the precons need to have that balance of like it needs to hold up to the rest of the group, but it also still needs to be fairly basic to like introduce new players.
Right.
And I think that that's what I've liked about a lot of the precons that we've gotten already this year. The Fallout precons have like some extra like funness to it. Like there's like the rad counters, right? Like they're introducing things that aren't necessarily going to go in every commander deck. They're introducing things that are slightly underpowered, but ultimately give up to a synergy that could be tuned. But if you're a new player, you can still see how like this interacts with the rest of the board. You can see like the interactions with like old commanders, old creatures, old artifacts, all these things. And what was just announced today as of recording were some of the things that were going on in the Thunder Junction precons. I don't know if this is a thing that's actually coming to the decks or if it was just an idea that they had, but they had these idea of bounty cards, which are only commander playable. You get like a stack of like 6 of them at the beginning of the game, and then like the third turn, I think it is, like when the first player takes their third turn, they flip over the top one, and then if by the end of it has like a bounty, if you meet that bounty, you get a prize. If nobody beats the bounty by the start of the next round, goes to the next thing, and the prize is a little bit bigger. Like these things. Like these are like, or even last year we had the Doctor Who precons with the plane chase. Like these are the things that I love that they're focusing on to make the experience a little less like focused on power. And they're still obviously printing powerful cards. I'm not saying that they're not, but I definitely saw like a thread in the past couple of weeks on Twitter that was like, oh, like here's some examples of like cards from the Fallout set that are actually powered down from their like current like
from their predecessor.
Essentially like the metaphorical same card. And like that's nice to see. I think that again, what needs to be done generally for people who are buying precons to like upgrade them, and I mean this is just my opinion, right? Like this is something I do, I guess. That's how I should frame it. Is what I do with precons is I like to, if I'm going to upgrade it and keep the deck running similarly, You had mentioned it before. Change to commander.
Yep.
Whether it's from outside the deck but the same colors, but does a similar thing, or one of the legendaries from within.
Right.
I really like the ones that they've been doing recently where it's partner with. We had some in Ikoria. We had some in one of the Innistrad sets. Like, it was two that made up the color identity of the deck. And I liked that. Yeah. They usually work together. But ultimately, I think what needs to be done is looking at cards and how they interact with the deck rather than just like substituting it for something that is just better, right?
Right. So I've got a couple of friends who are doing that, you know, who are making upgrades to their commander deck, or to their Precon, and I thought it was an innovative way to do it. So they play a game with the Precon. If they win the game, they don't make any changes. If they lose the game, they now have $1 in the bank for that deck. And you can spend that money on new cards for the deck. But it means you're only getting to spend $1 for each time that deck loses. I love this. Yeah. Because it limits how powerful the cards are that you're adding to it. Or you're just going to be prepared to play with a straight Precon and lose a lot of games before you can start buying other stuff. So I will say both of them have looked at it and said, okay, so, I'm looking at this card. They start looking for where they can get the biggest bang for their buck. And so they spend a pile of time just looking at some of the cards and thinking about some of the cards they could improve with. And they're still looking at cards that are basically in the, $2 and under range. Because that's, they want to see some improvement now as opposed to just waiting and finding, that $15 card that's going to improve the deck. It's like, yes, okay, fine. But what can I do now? How do I take, the card that was in there and replace it with something else? And it just means they're getting so much fun out of that Precon. So pay for the Precon, and then it's literally adding it's the equivalent of adding $1 per game. I'm like, a game takes an hour. You're paying essentially $1 for an hour's worth of entertainment. I mean, I wish I could get that kind of rate rate of return on other stuff.
Right.
That's spectacular, and so it's been a lot of fun because I get to play against them relatively frequently, and I get to see the improvements to the deck and some of the changes they've made, and it's been a lot of fun, and they love doing it. So,
hell yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a really great idea, especially where like the alternate. Which is something that I've done with a couple decks, which is buy it, let it sit there for a while. Be like, all right, I'm never going to play this. And then I just file it away with the rest of my cards. I put it into my catalog.
Yep.
They're in there. I can find the cards. If I have the deck list, I can make the deck again, so that's not terrible. But like ultimately, I just kind of like let them live there. And sometimes the synergies are strong enough that when you're building another deck, you notice that certain cards end up together again. And I love that too, where it's just like, oh, okay, like this is a good interaction. I want to do that again. But I think a thing to think about too is how much do you need to change to feel ownership over it, right? And I think that's a bit of a headier topic than we're willing to fully tackle today. But I think it's an overarching thing that I like to think about with regards to any deck. Because I think I struggle to make... I've been struggling to make changes to my Admiral Beckett Brass deck, because the first time I made it, it was, I was a new player. It was just kind of like type pirate.
Find me pirates.
Yeah, exactly. And it does that well, but there's also been like a bunch of new pirates that have been just better. But does that just mean that deck is just a database of pirates, who knows? So like I'm putting that one on the back burner. I'm considering taking it apart because like I don't feel the ownership over it anymore.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes the same with precons or even web decks, net decks. There we go.
There you go.
Precons or net decks where like I fully endorse both of those things. If it gets you playing the game, if it gets you having fun, then great. Like not everyone necessarily needs to be like a deck brewer. No offense, Bruce, because you brew. Anyway,
I will. I will not be doing that.
Well, I just meant
I don't remember the
name
last. I've never net decked.
I just meant because your name is Bruce.
I understand.
Okay. And so like between either of those, like I feel like it's a very similar thing where it's just like you found a list, you played with that list, and what you do from there to make it feel like your own is up to you.
Right.
I think that with making changes, make sure that it feels right, that it feels good, fun to play. Be aware of like sure, you can have a white deck and put Smothering Tithe in it, but does it actually belong in the deck? And that's a tough thing for new players to recognize. It's a tough thing for me to recognize, and I've been playing for 5-6 years now.
It's okay, Andy. Yes. With Smothering Tithe, yes, it does belong in the deck if it's white.
It's also a $50 card.
Look, I didn't say anything about the price of the card. I just said, yes, it does belong in the deck.
Did you know that Smothering Tithe isn't a commander card? That was in just straight up Guilds of Ravnica, or maybe Ravnica Allegiance. Like, that's nuts.
Yes.
Anyway. But I think, like, the question of how much you have to change to feel ownership over it is a question you have to answer on your own. But I think that with making updates, don't necessarily take everyone's advice at face value. Like they're doing their thing. You got to figure out what feels right for you.
Right.
And that's not even me discounting these upgrade guides. I think that they point you in a more correct direction. But I think it's easy to just like be overwhelmed with, I have to make things better.
Well, and if I'm making suggestions to you as to how to make things better, it's going to involve a +1/+1 counter and probably some token creatures, but that's just me.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about precons for a bit. I wanted to just chat about how do you... Okay, you bought a precon, now what? Or even, should I be buying precons? I'd say overall, if you want to play them, go for it. Otherwise, look at the cards you want. You will almost definitely be saving money most of the time. Yeah. It's tough, though.
I will say, for the new player, I would start with a couple of precons. I mean, you don't want to start out buying individual cards. Get a few precons. Get some precons. Hit your local card shop and find out how much it costs to get 30 of each land, because it'll be almost nothing.
To older players, I would say just build bad decks. Feel how that feels to play, because I think a lot of us are getting hung up on optimizing.
Right.
And not even thinking about like, it's still fun to not play these triomes. It's still fun to not play original duels. All these things, right? Like,
right. Well, it's just buying a few of the precons when you're a new player means, you know what? I'm going to get a Cross and Grip. I'm going to get Rampant Growth. I'm going to get some Soul Rings, some Command Towers. You're going to get a lot of the cards that you are going to be putting into a lot of your decks. And it means you can play right now without having to make a huge outlay. I like where that, I like that as an entry point for the newer player. And then once you build up a few more cards, you've got the basics, you've got, literally basic lands and enough other funky lands to build up a decent mana base. And then you can start looking at, other options. Maybe you've got a commander out of one of those decks, or you saw something, you bought the commander, and now it's like, okay, I got to build around this. And you can use some of your own cards and then, and expand out, but because you'll have that base to begin with. I think it's rough if you're reaching out, if you don't start with a Precon, then you are looking for all of the basic cards in addition to, the funky ones that are only ever going to fit in that deck. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think overall, that's a great way to kind of wrap it up. I think,
sure.
I don't know, buy Precons or don't. Who gives a shit? Yeah. Have fun with the game. Most importantly.
Yeah.
Don't be mean to each other. And play the cards you want to. Right?
Yeah. Sounds like a good plan.
As long as it's not at the detriment of other players. Don't play Stasis into whatever. I don't know. Don't play the, what is it, Painter's Servant Iona combo. Obviously banned in Commander, but because I think Iona's banned. Anyway.
We can talk about the cards you should and shouldn't play in another episode.
Yeah, let's do that. But for this week, we're Temple of False Pod. We're decks and not optimized better plays. Sure as heck are fun. I'm Andy.
I'm Bruce.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, which if you are, press that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And you get notified when we have a new episode, which it's been a wild couple months for me, so I'm sorry. I promise it's going to be more.
And you get to see Bruce making stupid faces.
Hell
there we go.
But again, thank you. Have a great night. Play some Magic for me. Do it. May your fifth land be the temple.
Bye!
Wait. Before you go, I just wanted to say thank you for listening. You can reach out to us via email at falsepodmtg@gmail.com or Blue Sky @falsepodmtg. Bruce is @manaburned, and I'm @Andy Weekend, though you'll definitely notice I use the podcast Twitter far more often. Now that we've got you here, make sure you subscribe, rate us on whatever podcast platform you use. It helps us out. It gets us more reach. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like a video there. Leave some comments for more casual enjoyment. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with some more timeless discussions about all things casual. So come hang out, and may your fifth land be the temple. Bye-bye. Should I do my best, Bruce? Bye!